I didn't have the easiest childhood. I'm basically a very dumb person, and it's how I started out, and I know it. So, I had learning disabilities when I was in elementary school. So, I went through a lot of having to relearn the alphabet, relearning math, relearning how to read. So, I do all this stuff, and I basically am able to accomplish it, but I kind of grew up with a chip on my shoulder. It was not easy, but I somehow did it. And I turned things around from being basically thought of as a village idiot to being one of the smart guys. You just have to follow the rules, right? And then that's what you're perceived as. And through high school, I rode my sister's coattails. I admit that I did that. But what I did learn through growing up a freaking moron was how to just sit back and observe. Not really talk, but observe. And so I carried this all the way into the accounting profession that I went to school for eventually. So I basically would be able to sit back and watch people do things, and then from that be able to either say to other people to make them laugh, which was kind of ancillary, or actually figure out how I could use it to my benefit. And there's a ton of benefit to really watching other people. So, over the course of my career, I figured out that one of my supervisors ate his earwax. And I told other people on the team that I was working with, watch this guy, he's gonna eat his earwax. And the people were like, ah, no way. No way he eats his earwax. We see other things he does, but he does not eat his earwax. And I was like, oh yeah, he does. So, they didn't believe me, like, that's funny that James said that. And later that week, the guy comes out to our job site and goes like this. I'm not kidding. So, I've noticed this. All these people that hadn't noticed it die laughing. No, I'm like, you can't laugh at a person that does something but doesn't even know they're doing it. So, don't laugh at anyone that does that. We had another client that he had dentures, and every once in a while he'd have to reset them, so he'd go to reset them. So I say something in the audit room about, well, if you ever notice this guy, when every once in a while he has to reset his dentures and does it, he goes. So I don't think anything of that, but he does it in front of the audit team. It does like that, and the lead auditor turns around to me laughing, and I'm like, can't do that. So, and I'd love to tell you this is in pattern. There was one client we had, every time he lied, he'd wag his tongue. He'd go, right? So, apparently, again, I'm the only one that notices this. Well, you did it a lot faster, but what are you going to do, right? So, I'd be like, well, every time that he's about ready to bend the truth, he wags his tongue, and the person that I was telling it to was like, no, he doesn't, and, well, turned out he did. It got so bad that I actually had one person that was my supervisor ask me, man, you're very observant. And I was like, well, I try. She goes, what do I do? I'm like, God, you don't do anything, and I never tell you if you did. I mean, it's not like you're the one client that had an operation, and every time he talked about the operation, he put his hand over where the operation was. You can't see my crotch, but he had a hernia. So it was really kind of not the most sightly thing for a person to do, but the guy talked a lot. He was like a nervous talker, I guess, and he just put his hand right over where the problem was. Like, so I say something about it because I figure once again everybody notices this, but they don't. Is that my fault or your fault? And then I start going, well, so you really don't notice these things. So when we're having a big team building event with a bunch of CPAs, that's about as fun as it sounds like. And they say, the moderator goes, okay, now I want you, the accountant, to describe yourself in a very short soliloquy, if you like. So the first guy goes, and he says, I'm like a bear. Well, accountants are not the most creative people in the world, so then everybody else decides to go with an animal. And it comes to me, and I'm like, fuck that. So I'm like in a regular pair of jeans. And everyone's like, what? You're like a who? What are you talking about? I was like, there's something different about me, but stare as long as you want. I guarantee you'll never find out what it is.